Welcome to Blue Seal Talks. We're going to be talking today about the wonderfully interesting topic of taxes and avoiding as many of them as you legally can.
I love 40% of my income just being taken away. So, Dave, the other day I was having a conversation with one of my friends, and we talked about something called a holding company. And the way he explained it to me is basically you create this LLC, and this LLC now owns this company and this company and this company, and they send that money to that LLC, right? I mean, is it really necessary? Because it's so much more work.
First of all, if at all possible, you should always have a company, an LLC or a C Corp, something like that, between you and your enterprise. And the reason for that is why you think it's called a limited liability company, is because your liability is limited by the company being there. Same thing with a C Corp. You are protected. It's very difficult to pierce the corporate veil, as it's called. It's very difficult to assign responsibilities to you of anything you did in the corporation's name. And that's tremendous in terms of protecting your own personal wealth and things like that. I would say that anyone who has significant income from working with the public or with a place where anybody could get injured, like if you're doing a construction company, things like that. But even in this sense, someone could be injured in the process of doing one of the adventure videos, and you would rather they sue the company than sue you.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to have a company in the way. Now, if Brixley Media, if Blue Steel Adventure are LLCs, you've already got something in the way. You don't need another company in the way. That's there for a different reason. It's not a tax protection, because there's a problem with the company too.
Yeah.
Yes, you are protected from liability, but the price you pay for that is there's a cost in passing money through.
Yeah.
So you wind up with double taxation.
So question on the liability side of things. So let's say so I'm the owner of this LLC. If someone sues me, can they come after my LLC?
They can only come after the LLC in which the business was done. They can't sue you, and they can't sue any other LLC. They can only come after the LLC in which the business took place.
So if I get in an accident, can someone sue me and get money out of my LLC or no?
Yes, but not in the way you think. If you were to lose a judgment, then your assets are liable to seizure, and that LLC is part of your assets. It's not a case of pulling money out of the LLC to pay off for your accident. It's taking part or all of your ownership of the LLC and transferring that to pay off your debts. So the answer is yes, but not quite in the way I think you were thinking about it. Although that's fairly rare to happen, because hopefully you have insurance.
Yeah.
That's why you have insurance. You let the insurance companies fight about all of this. But go back to the LLC as a holding company on top of the LLC that's the corporation. I have never done that. And I've had multiple enterprises, but not usually at the same time. If you need a way of transferring money easily between multiple enterprises, and you don't want that to attack your own personal, be connected with your own personal finances, then a holding company is a great idea. What the holding company does is it owns the stock in the intermediate companies. So that means it can do anything it wants to with those. Now, of course, you're a director of the company and an officer and all of that sort of stuff, so you have a lot of say in the matter. But yes, there's a double protection, but there's also a triple taxation. The holding company makes money, the LLC makes money, and that's a profit, so that's tax, and then it goes to you, and that's tax, so that's 3 times.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful as to who does what, yeah. But you can do it.
And is it a write-off? So if the first LLC...
It's a write-off for wherever the transaction takes place.
Okay. So if my LLC pays my holding company, the LLC gets a write-off?
Yes. If it's an expense, if it is paid as an expense to the holding company by the LLC, yes. Now, if money from one LLC is taken in by the holding company, say as a dividend, and then it's transferred to another holding company, say as an investment, then it becomes a taxable event to the holding company, but it also becomes an investment event for the LLC. So yes, there's taxation on it, but that transaction there's no taxation on that.
So what if the holding company, because this is what I'm thinking, is LLCs, 5 LLCs pay my holding company. My holding company now has multiple assets, like company cars and company houses and, company things. And then I am paid last. So since those are company expenses, right, it now is an additional write-off.
But you have just set that up for double taxation, and that's a problem. So you have this LLC, and as you said, the holding company is funded out of the LLCs. That's a taxable event. The money is being transferred. That's a taxable event. Now, you wanted it to get there so that you could do the write-offs here. Let's say you have a company car that is used by all of the ones. That's be a good, or an office that's used by all of the ones. That's a reason for there to be the holding company. It becomes now an expense up here. It's not an expense for them. So, but if you do it right, you can have the smaller LLCs have an expense of rent paid to the holding company. Then it just becomes a payment of rent, and it's offset by the rent on the building. So that's not a taxable event. So you have to be very careful, see figure 1, about having an accountant to straighten all this out.
So if it's...
But there is a reason to do it if there's multiple companies that are living off the same asset base.
Yeah. So if it's contracted, quote unquote, if this LLC gets paid, $10,000 a month, or this holding company, gets paid $10,000 a month from this LLC.
Right.
So this LLC gets to now write off the $10,000.
Yes, if it's an expense, if it's done as an expense, yeah.
So what does an expense mean?
An expense means it is something is purchased, not stock or anything like that, but an asset or a service. And in this case, rent would be the obvious one, but it doesn't have to be rent. It can be all sorts of things. You have to be careful, but it's not that hard. Anything that comes out of the asset base of the lower company and goes into the asset base of the upper company, that is in exchange for something.
So what if I just want to pay? So since that holding company now owns 50% of this LLC, so it gets 50% of the profit every month. So,
well, just because it owns 50% of the ownership doesn't mean it gets 50% of the profit. In fact, you probably don't want to do that, because you want to absorb all of the expenses in the smaller LLC that are attributed to that smaller LLC that you can. Wherever the money is made is where you want the expenses to accrue, as much as you possibly can, because it avoids the taxation or the problem of the IRS going in and looking at this web of things and not liking it.
Yeah. Is it really worth the headache if you have 1 or 2 companies?
No, as I said, I've never done it. But if there are shared assets, shared expenses, like you got 6 companies in a building and you're renting it, yeah, you're probably going to have, it may not be a holding company, it may be, the building may be in this company and all of them rent from it, but there's no ownership connection. Yeah. That's perfectly valid too. Yeah. That's a different arrangement, but it's not that different. Again, an accountant can help set all of this up. My prejudice is always as simple as possible.
Yeah. I mean, after having a conversation with you, I don't think a holding company is worth the headache, because setting it up is just, it really is, a lot more time consuming than just creating an LLC and just having an accountant take care of that. And it's a lot more paperwork and things like that. Now, the only time it's really worth it is when you're buying real estate.
Well, why is it worth it then?
Because then the holding company can own 30 different homes, because each house should have its own LLC.
Well, oh, I see. Yeah.
And then all the income will be,
right. Especially if you're renting it out or something like that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then yes, that's a perfect example of why you'd have a holding company.
Yeah.
Because there are shared assets, namely that somebody's paying the mortgages and all of that sort of stuff. And if you arrange it correctly, so those are expenses in the correct direction, they're not taxable, so that you're fine.
Exactly.
What you cannot do is transfer profits back and forth without paying taxes on it. That you just can't do.
Yeah. No. But yeah, thank you for explaining everything, Dave.
Well, seriously. As I said, this advice is worth what you're paying for it. The real thing is get an accountant and have the accountant set this up if you need it. As I said, I have never needed it, but real estate is a good reason for doing it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in the next one.